Gracie, help me out. Huh? Why? Well, my wife told me that I have to pay for all our living expenses except for groceries. I overheard this conversation at the trendy restaurant where I went to have lunch with a friend. Seated nearby was a man I recognized, chatting with a woman I'd never seen before. The man was my husband. Yes, I had stumbled upon my husband's infidelity. My name is Heather, and I'm a 27-year-old part-time working housewife, married for 4 years. My husband, Isaac, is a year younger and works part-time at a restaurant as a freelancer. In college, I found him cute and didn't worry too much about him not job hunting. I naively thought that as long as I worked hard, our future would be fine, not giving it any serious thought. But after marrying him upon his graduation, just because we were going out, I began to feel uneasy about his $1,300 take-home pay. At that time, I was in my second year of working and earning $1,900. We could make ends meet, but I worried about what would happen if we had a child. Before our wedding, my in-laws were very concerned about our marriage. "Are you sure you want to marry our son? You're still young. Maybe you should wait until Isaac's job situation is more stable." I didn't understand the meaning of her words at the time. Living with my parents, I never had money troubles and didn't comprehend the significance of supporting ourselves after marriage. After experiencing the challenges of marriage, I realized how naive I had been and often regretted rushing into it. In the beginning, I was determined to make our marriage work, believing I had to put in more effort. So I started a side gig working from home in addition to my regular job. Surprisingly, it suited me well, and after 3 years of marriage, I quit my full-time job to focus solely on working from home. Our lifestyle improved, and we managed to save a considerable amount. We were financially stable enough to welcome a child, but unfortunately, we still couldn't conceive. Isaac kept quitting and starting part-time jobs, so I suggested he become a full-time house husband. "Hey, I'm earning a decent amount, so you don't have to push yourself to work part-time. I want you to be a stay-at-home husband and support my work." But he made a disgusted face at my proposal. "What? You just sit in front of a computer typing all day?" "No, I'm working." "You quit your job and made me work. What do you mean you're earning?" "I'm supporting us, and if I quit my job, we won't be able to make ends meet." I didn't know what he misunderstood, but he said that. "Remember when I told you I wanted to quit my job because I could earn more working from home? I guess you didn't understand me." "What? Working from home is just pocket money. Leave the work to me and you take care of the house." "Hey, you wouldn't say that if you know how much I make." I tried to show him my bank book, but he refused to look at it. Thinking there was no problem with him continuing to work part-time, I dropped the subject. But then he started acting strangely. I had received $700 for living expenses until now, but he stopped paying even that, and his time at home outside of his part-time job gradually decreased. One night, when he came home drunk, I complained. "You know, you also use electricity, gas, and water in this house, right? At least help with some living expenses. It's true I wanted you to become a full-time house husband, but since you decided to continue working part-time, I've been doing the housework. And because of that, I've reduced my working hours. Also, where have you been hanging out lately?" But he just glared at me, annoyed. "Shut up. I'm the head of this household. To you, I'm your master. Wear a maid outfit and welcome me home saying welcome back. You're a full-time housewife. Don't do side jobs." He yelled and fell asleep on the sofa. Fine. If you insist, I'll focus on housework, I said, smiling at the drooling Isaac. The next day, I apologized to my clients and informed them that I wouldn't be able to continue working once I completed my current tasks. For the next few days, I focused on finishing my remaining work, and eventually, I became unemployed. Even so, we could afford to live comfortably because we had plenty of savings. I could live without working for about a year, so I didn't have any problems. When Isaac came home from his part-time job, I told him, "Isaac, I've decided to quit my side job, just like you said." He smiled a little. "Really? You finally realized I was right, huh?" "Yes, you were right." "Of course. I'm working hard every day, and I'm more important than you, who just earns a little money by playing with a computer at home." "Yes, it seems so." Although annoyed by his tone, I still handed him a cash card and a bank book with a smile. It was a newly created card, and I had already contacted each company to change the direct debit to this card. "I have a favor to ask of you, my wonderful husband." "What is it?" "It seems I'm not good at managing money. I can't make ends meet with the $700 you give me, and you didn't even give me living expenses last month or the month before." "Don't you have any savings? I didn't know you were so careless with money, Heather." "Yeah, it seems that way. That's why I want to leave it to you." "If that's the case, leave it to me. $200 a month should be enough for food expenses, right? You should be able to manage that." My strategy of appearing submissive seemed to work, and he confidently took charge of all the payments except for the $200 a month he gave me for food expenses. Of course, $200 wasn't enough for food expenses, so I covered the difference with my own savings. The first rent payment seemed to go well, but as he watched the bank account balance gradually decrease with each payment for electricity, gas, and phone bills, his face turned pale. When I casually asked, "How's the money management going, honey?" he forced a smile and replied, "It's going well, of course. I'm the best at managing our finances. If we don't have enough money, let me know. I still have some money from my side job. I don't need to rely on such a small amount of money." "All right. Next month, the water bill will also be deducted, so be sure to let me know if you're really in trouble." "What? The water bill?" His face turned pale, but I left him with a smile. Currently, Isaac is supposed to be providing $1,100 for living expenses, excluding food, but since we've always been living frugally, there should be no problem. We chose a cheap apartment for rent, and our utility bills are just a little over $100. We have no debt, and our internet and phone bills aren't that high either. With some tight budgeting, our expenses should be around $1,000. He can use the extra $100 as pocket money. In fact, I've saved the money he has given me for living expenses until now, and I have about $20,000. If he needs more pocket money, he can either increase his part-time work or switch to a better-paying job. I think it's up to him whether or not he wants to do that. But I didn't know anything. I had no idea what he was doing behind my back. One day, I went to a trendy restaurant that was popular recently for lunch with my friend Iris. It was a popular place among women, and there were a few couples inside. We ordered the popular menu items, took some selfies, and had a fun time talking and laughing about recent events. At that moment, I heard a man's voice from another table. "Gracie, help me out." "Huh? Why?" "My wife actually told me I have to pay for all the living expenses except for food." "You're married?" "Yeah." My wife used to take care of everything around the house. Then why don't you ask your wife to do it again? I can't do that. I boasted and said something stupid. She must have gotten mad at me and decided to let me handle the living expenses. I looked at the table in surprise. It was Isaac and a woman I had never seen before. The woman was a young girl in her 20s. She was just the type he would like. When I told Iris that one of the people in the couple was my husband, she became very interested and started recording their conversation on her smartphone. Was it a lie when you said you were working part-time for your dream? Huh? Oh, did I say that? But you can actually make a living on a part-time job. He was laughing foolishly, and the woman glared at him. I thought I might be okay with marrying you, but wow, you're the worst. If I were your wife, I'd definitely divorce you right away. Who else but your wife would put up with a broke, freeloading man who asks for help after spending all the money on her? Don't ever contact me again. The woman said that and stood up, quickly leaving the restaurant. Iris immediately followed her. When I looked at Isaac, he seemed to be crying with his head down. So I stood up, paid the bill at the register, and chased after Iris. When I went outside, Iris had caught up with the woman and said, "Can I talk to you for a moment?" The woman looked at her suspiciously, so I stepped in between them right away. I'm Isaac's wife. We heard your conversation with him at our table earlier, and we were wondering if we could talk to you for a moment. The woman turned pale and apologized. I'm so sorry. I didn't know he was married until just now. I understand. It's okay. We just want to talk for a bit. Iris, the woman named Gracie, and I went to a different cafe, and we decided to hear her story. It seemed that he had been cheating on me with Gracie for about half a year. She said that the reason he started acting tough towards me was probably because she praised him. I got her permission and recorded our conversation. When I first met Isaac, he was such a gentleman and would buy me anything I wanted. He would always take me to nice restaurants for meals and brag that he was making enough money from his part-time job so he wouldn't have any problems with living expenses. That's why I said things like cool, manly, and reliable and that I liked him, but it was just lip service. Iris nodded in agreement. I see. He misunderstood what was being said to him. That's why he started acting tough towards you, who didn't show him respect as a husband. Respect him as a husband? That's impossible. He only makes $1,300 a month. I've never seen him chasing his dream, and he's always complaining about not having money. He's always getting into fights with other staff and quitting. I think he's changed jobs over 20 times. He can't work in the neighborhood, so he works at a store 2 stations away. Upon hearing my story, both Iris and Gracie turned pale. How in the world did you manage to have a married life with him? Well, I'm the one who makes more money. Honestly, I'm not struggling financially. Maybe I hurt his pride as a man when I asked him to become a stay-at-home husband. But that's not a good reason for him to cheat, is it? Iris looked at me seriously and said, Of course not. I didn't say anything because I thought you two were happy together, despite Isaac being a freeloader. But if you are suffering, I have something to say. Divorce him. He doesn't care about you right now. I can't imagine you raising a child with someone like that, if you ever have one. I want you to divorce him before you have children and find someone better for you. I nodded vigorously at her words. Yeah, you're right. I've been thinking I need to work hard for him all this time. From now on, I want to work hard for myself. After that, Iris introduced me to a lawyer who was an acquaintance of her husband. The video of Isaac and Gracie arguing that Iris took, as well as the recorded testimony from Gracie, served as evidence, and the divorce preparations went smoothly. Then I brought up the subject of divorce to Isaac. Hey, do you know a girl named Gracie? He looked surprised for a moment, but then looked away, pretending not to know her. No, I don't know her. Who is she? You don't know? Could it be that you have early onset dementia or something? You're making fun of me again? Your husband? Uh-huh, I am. I showed him the video of him and Gracie arguing that Iris had sent me. You really don't remember anything about Gracie? It seems like you've been supporting her quite a bit for the past 6 months. Hey, before I took over managing the money, you had about $500 in allowance, right? But from what I hear from Gracie, it seems like you've been spending more than $500. Where did you get that money from? When I asked, his face broke out in a cold sweat, and he stammered out an answer. Actually, I borrowed $2,000 through a cash advance. What? You went into debt just to support her? Well, she said that men who spend money on her are attractive. So what about the repayment? There's no problem with that. My hourly wage has gone up recently, and I'm taking home $1,400. I also switched the cash advance to a revolving payment plan so I can pay it back every month without any trouble. But when I make the payments, I'm left with only $100. I somehow managed to convince her to settle for a cheaper place the last time. As he explained with a laugh, I was left speechless and exasperated. After a deep sigh, I immediately presented him with divorce papers. I can't believe you'd borrow money with a revolving payment plan. You're insane. But how you spend your money is no longer any of my concern. As a severance payment, I'll give you 20% of our assets. I've saved part of the money I've earned and the living expenses you've paid me. It seems pointless to ask you for alimony, so once we're divorced, never involve yourself with me again. Huh? What are you talking about? Even if you say 20% of the assets, it's not that much, right? How can you really make demands with that kind of money? This is why women are so brazen. Since he didn't seem to understand, I showed him the reality. It's $20,000. What? That much? Are you lying? Saying you actually didn't have it just to disappoint me? That's not gonna work. I've figured out these past 3 months paying for my own living expenses. There's no savings in this house at all. Not wanting to talk to him any longer, I took out my bank book from my bag and showed it to him. You didn't want to see the bank book when I tried to show it to you before. Did you not want to face the reality that I'm earning more than you? Well, too bad. I'm earning $9,600 a month. I have a total of $100K in savings. In shock, Isaac looked back and forth between the bank book and me. Anyway, I don't want to be married to someone like you, who's irresponsible with both money and women. I don't even want to divide our assets. If we could cut ties, I'd even pay off the debt you've created. So don't ever get involved in my life again. From now on, we'll communicate through our lawyers, so don't contact me directly. With that, I picked up the luggage I had prepared earlier and left the house. When I returned to my parents' house, they greeted me warmly. After returning to their house, I started working from home again. I resumed working with the clients I have been dealing with before. At first, my income didn't increase as much, but after a while, it returned to its previous level. After that, Isaac apparently cried to his parents, but since I was offering favorable terms, we decided to proceed with an amicable divorce without any negotiations. At one point, we had a discussion with our lawyers about the division of assets, and Isaac and my in-laws came to my house. My in-laws apologized profusely, making me feel almost guilty. We agreed that the division of assets would be settled in a way that satisfied me, and I would transfer $20,000 to Isaac as a severance payment. According to my in-laws, they were afraid of giving him a large sum of money, and they thought that even $20,000 was too much. We will make Isaac pay for the debt he incurred. You don't need to pay for it, Heather. We'll also handle the cancellation fees for the apartment and the disposal of the furniture and appliances. We're truly sorry for the trouble our son has caused you. My father-in-law apologized, and it seemed that my mother-in-law had scolded Isaac quite a bit, as his face was beet red and he was looking down. Seeing him like that, I felt a bit relieved. I had been on guard, thinking that he and my in-laws might demand reconciliation after learning about my monthly income, but I'm glad that they were good people. Since then, Isaac has been forced to work at his relative's company, living and working there. His debt was only about $2,000, so I think he could pay it back quickly, but he seems to be working like a horse without being able to go out freely. This is probably a good lesson for him, who had always been spoiled and dependent on me. I can only pray that he becomes a decent member of society. As for me, I continue to meet up with Iris and have lunch together. This time, as a token of my gratitude, I gave her a travel voucher. Then she said she wanted to go with me and made travel plans for us. I wanted you to travel with your family. Of course, I'll go with my family too. But you're my best friend, so it's okay to prioritize you, right? She said that with a big smile. I consider myself fortunate to have become friends with her. I want to continue to cherish such a best friend in the future.
Tomorrow is Isla's school open house.
I have a business trip, so I can't go. Can you go in my place?
Huh? I told you to keep tomorrow free a long time ago.
Don't get angry. It's work, so I can't help it, right?
It's always like this. I am Jada. I'm 32 years old. I have been married to my husband Leon for 5 years. Leon has a history of divorce and a daughter named Isla, who was taken care of by him for some reason. 5 years ago, I became Isla's mother through my marriage to Leon. My first encounter with Leon was at work. I've been working as an employee ever since I graduated from university. Leon and I were in different departments, so I didn't know the fact that he was married or that he had a daughter until after we started dating. After dating for 6 months, Leon finally told me for the first time that he had a history of divorce and a child. At that time, Isla was living with her grandparents in Leon's family home. Leon was living alone in an apartment, so I didn't realize the existence of his daughter until then. Since Leon was busy with work and often away from home until late, Isla reached the conclusion that it would be safer for her to live with her grandparents, so they lived separately. In the first place, I don't know why Leon, as the father, took custody instead of the mother. When I asked about it before, Leon didn't seem willing to talk about it, so I didn't ask further. When I first learned about Isla's existence, I thought about ending my relationship with Leon. Becoming a mother figure to Isla, who was 7 years old at the time, felt too burdensome for me. However, Leon pleaded with me, and I ended up meeting Isla once. Isla, I was certain, wouldn't accept me as her father's new spouse, and she probably wouldn't even make eye contact with me, or so I had anticipated. However, Isla unexpectedly warmed up to me. I still remember that face calling my name with a smile. We exchanged contact information and started messaging each other. Through our interactions, I began to think that maybe Isla would accept me as a family member. And 1 year after our first meeting with Isla, Leon and I decided to get married. After our marriage, Isla moved out of her grandparents' house and started living with us. It was also physically difficult for the elderly grandparents to take care of their grandchildren any longer. Moreover, I could return home earlier than Leon and ensure that Isla didn't feel lonely, which made my parents-in-law support the idea of living together. With that, our new life began. Initially after getting married, Leon would come home early and actively help with household chores. However, after about 6 months of marriage, Leon started coming home later and I ended up doing most of the housework. As for doing the housework alone, I didn't have that many complaints. The most challenging part was taking care of Isla. For Isla, I still felt like a relative rather than a mother figure, and I couldn't possibly replace her actual mother. As a child, Isla also seemed aware of that, and I struggled every day not knowing how to interact with her. Even if I wanted to discuss it, Leon would come home late almost every day, and even on the rare occasions when he was at home,
I don't really understand Isla's situation.
With that kind of sentiment, I couldn't expect any useful advice from him, feeling that Leon was neglecting Isla too much. Leon, could you please pay a little more attention to Isla? I said, but Leon responded,
Wouldn't it be better if it's between women? You married me because you thought you could take care of Isla, right? Since you decided to become a mother, take responsibility.
His words sounded as if it was someone else's problem, leaving me bewildered. However, Leon was right in saying that once I decided to become a mother, I had a responsibility towards Isla. I kept pondering how I could earn Isla's trust and took actions, only to end up with disappointing results. Isla was obedient and still engaged in conversations with me, albeit with some hesitation. However, around the time she reached 5th grade, she started showing distant behavior. Until then, we could have regular conversations and she would talk to me if something was bothering her. But suddenly, she stopped approaching me. Is it an early stage of rebellion? I have no knowledge as a mother, and I could only be confused and troubled by Isla's sudden cold attitude. And so, with that kind of relationship, Isla entered 6th grade. Isla still responded coldly when I tried to talk to her, as always. On weekends, she would go to her grandparents' house, making sure not to meet me. It had been 5 years since I married Leon. I'd been trying my best to deepen the bond with Isla, but it was all my own delusion. Isla didn't consider me as a part of the family, and to make matters worse, Leon became even busier, leaving me feeling lonely. Gradually, Leon started going on more business trips, leaving the house vacant at least once a month. Despite being her own father, my husband shows no interest in Isla, and I have been struggling to balance work, household chores, and my relationship with Isla, resulting in significant weight loss since our marriage. Personally, I was somewhat happy with the weight loss, thinking it was a good diet. However, I later heard that my colleagues suspected I was ill. However, I still felt moments of happiness. Through marrying Leon and meeting Isla, I had the opportunity to experience various aspects of being a mother. Although our relationship may not be good at the moment, Isla used to be affectionate towards me, and I believe that we could eventually return to the way things were. In the midst of all this, the day of Isla's elementary school graduation was fast approaching. I took a day off for the graduation ceremony and made various preparations. While busy with the preparations, one day,
I won't be able to attend the graduation ceremony,
Leon suddenly said. Startled, I asked, Huh? But you took a day off, didn't you? I confirmed.
There's an unavoidable business trip that I can't refuse,
he said with an unapologetic face. I couldn't believe that Leon would prioritize a business trip over our daughter's graduation ceremony, so I pleaded with him to find a way to attend. However, Leon turned a deaf ear to my request. Since Leon and I work in different departments, I honestly don't have a clear understanding of his job responsibilities. Although I had a sense that his work was demanding with overtime and weekend shifts, I still believe that if he talked to his superiors, they could arrange for someone else to go on the business trip. Our company isn't known for being excessively demanding, so I couldn't help but feel a bit skeptical about Leon's explanation. It's such an important graduation ceremony. Can't you find a way to decline it? I said, but he replied,
It's already decided. As long as you and her grandparents are there, I'll be fine, right?
Leon said that and left the living room. I was left dumbfounded watching him walk away. Then right after, Isla entered the living room. I looked at Isla, anxious to see if she had heard our conversation just now. She looked down and asked, "Dad, you can't come to the graduation ceremony, right?" I panicked, realizing that she had indeed heard it. But since she already knew, I couldn't lie. "Well, that's actually the case. A sudden business trip came up." I relayed the message and Isla responded with just, "I see. It's fine." Then she went into her room. I knew Isla must be hurt. Seeing her sad expression pained my heart. In an effort to cheer up my daughter, I tried to make her favorite meals and buy her favorite comics during the days leading up to the graduation ceremony. However, Isla's expression never brightened. And then, the day of the graduation ceremony arrived. As Leon was about to leave,
Sorry, leaving the graduation to you,
he said with a strangely happy expression and left the house. I couldn't fully accept Leon's business trip until the end, but I reminded myself that it was just work and there was nothing I could do about it, so I prepared for the graduation ceremony. At the graduation ceremony, Isla's grandparents attended in place of Leon, and the three of us, me and Isla's grandparents, watched Isla graduate. After the graduation ceremony went smoothly, on the way back, I sent a message to Leon to let him know that the graduation ceremony had ended. However, Leon only replied with an okay and didn't send any further messages. Does he not even have a single word of congratulations for the graduation? I sighed in exasperation and muttered in my heart, feeling the need to complain when he came back home. When we got home, Isla and I ate cake and watched our favorite TV show. I was happy to see Isla spending time with me in the living room for the first time in a long time. Then suddenly, Isla turned back towards me and, "There's something I need to talk about." Perplexed by Isla's sudden serious expression, I remained silent and waited for her to start speaking. And what Isla said was something I never expected. "Dad, he's cheating." Huh? Leon is cheating? Shocked by Isla's words, I left dumbfounded, and she gradually began to tell me about what had happened. According to her, when she was in 5th grade, she happened to come across Leon and an unfamiliar woman walking together, their arms linked, at a summer festival with her friends. Even though Leon tried to justify it by saying that the woman was just a friend, Isla, who has a keen intuition, didn't believe him, and she had been pleading with Leon to stop cheating. However, instead of apologizing, Leon brazenly refused to admit his mistake and, unbelievably, began to threaten Isla.
"If my affair gets exposed, Jada will disappear. So keep your mouth shut." Upon hearing those words from Leon, Isla had been afraid of me leaving and had kept silent all this time. And because of her silence, Isla felt guilty and ended up adopting a cold attitude towards me. As I saw tears welling up in Isla's eyes while she was speaking, my heart grew heavy with pain. At the same time, I felt a sense of joy knowing that Isla didn't want to lose me. Looking back, I realized that Isla had started being distant since she was in 5th grade. I couldn't help but feel sorry for not noticing the pain she went through without being able to say anything. I embraced Isla, who was holding back tears with a sense of regret. "I won't disappear, so don't worry," I reassured her. Isla seemed relieved to hear that. It was my own assumption that Isla was going through a rebellious phase, but it turned out that there were valid reasons behind her behavior, and I made up my mind that I couldn't let Leon continue as he pleased. First, I put Isla to bed, and then I contacted a colleague at work who was familiar with Leon in the same department. I wanted to confirm if Leon was really on a business trip today. My colleague confirmed that Leon was indeed on a business trip. However, they hesitantly continued with the following words.
"Actually, I've been meaning to talk about this, but your husband seems a bit suspicious, you know."
According to my colleague, it is true that Leon goes on business trips every month. However, they mentioned that there is always one female employee accompanying him on those trips. Leon claims it's for mentoring the junior staff, but the frequency of their travels together has raised some rumors within the department. Upon hearing this, I immediately asked for the name of the hotel where Leon stays. The business trip destination is 2 hours from here by train. He says he plans to stay 2 nights for the convenience of his business partners. I had another paid day off the next day, so I decided to go there in person to see if Leon was having an affair. The next day, I left Isla at my parents' house and took the train to the hotel where Leon was staying. I never thought I was capable of such bold actions, but when it's for Isla's sake, I felt like I could do anything. And so, I arrived at the hotel. Thinking that Leon was out for work, I waited for his return at a nearby cafe. Unexpectedly, Leon and the woman came out of the hotel in casual clothes. There was a woman with long hair beside him. The two of them were arm in arm, heading somewhere with apparent joy. I took a picture with my smartphone, which I was holding up. After that, I continued to take pictures of the two of them walking arm in arm and enjoying their date while hiding and following them. However, they didn't notice my presence at all. They kissed and hugged each other, clearly giving off the impression of being lovers. I captured the entire incident in photos and videos and started my journey back home. As I arrived home, exhaustion hit me all at once. I never imagined that Leon would be cheating on me with a colleague. I was trembling with anger. In my anger, I immediately informed my parents and in-laws about Leon's infidelity. I sent the photos of the affair scene to my in-laws, and they quickly rushed over, kneeling and apologizing to me. My parents quickly brought Isla with them, and our home was filled with me, my parents, my in-laws, and Isla. Leon should be returning from his business trip soon. He would be quite surprised to see everyone gathered together. It would be quite a spectacle to see how he would try to come up with excuses. Since I didn't want Isla to witness the chaos, I asked my mother to accompany her and have Isla wait in her room. And then, 2 hours later, Leon returned home with a completely ordinary expression on his face.
I'm so tired from the business trip. The person from the client company was so difficult,
he complained as he entered the living room. Welcome back, Leon. As we all glared at Leon, he seemed surprised by the cold stares and the unusual atmosphere. Sensing the cold gaze and the tense atmosphere, Leon stumbled with his words and said,
Did everyone gather for Isla's graduation celebration or something?
He started talking like that. Did you have a good time on your business trip? I asked while giving him a stern look, and Leon became even more flustered.
It's work. There's nothing enjoyable about it,
he replied with an unnecessarily loud voice. Then, unable to contain himself any longer, my father-in-law shouted at Leon.
You've been cheating, you damn fool!
Leon flinched as he was suddenly yelled at. Realizing that Leon didn't grasp the situation, I proceeded to tell him about my visit to his business trip location that day, showing him the evidence of photos and videos to confront him about his affair. As there was concrete evidence against him, Leon couldn't escape and reluctantly admitted to his infidelity while becoming defensive.
Coming to my business trip location? How unfair of you. Were you doubting me?
Leon tried to play the victim, so I informed him that the affair rumors were already circulating within the company. This only made Leon more flustered. Did he really think he could openly parade around with his junior colleague without getting caught? I couldn't help but be disgusted by what a foolish man he was. Under the scrutiny of everyone, Leon became resentful and uttered,
The reason I married you in the first place was to offload the responsibility of taking care of Isla.
He said those words boldly. As I was taken aback, Leon began to speak the truth. It turns out that Leon's previous marriage ended because of his infidelity. Leon explained that his previous wife had struggled mentally and couldn't take care of Isla, so he had no choice but to take custody of her. Isla's mother had a history of illness and was emotionally unstable, so Isla expressed a desire to be with her father rather than her mother. However, Leon was initially indifferent to parenting and found himself overwhelmed by Isla, so he used his work as an excuse to pass the responsibility to his parents' house. However, perhaps due to concerns about societal perception of living separately from his daughter, Leon came up with the idea of remarrying to secure a woman who would take care of Isla. That's how I ended up being chosen as the convenient woman. Realizing that I had been deceived from the beginning, I felt frustrated, pathetic, and tears welled up. Leon had planned to burden me with everything, while he intended to have affairs with other women. Both my in-laws and my father were furious. They yelled at Leon, and my father-in-law even held Leon's head down while making him apologize. Despite everything, I couldn't stop crying, and as I lay on the floor, Isla came out of her room and embraced me. "Mom, please don't cry." I was surprised when Isla called me Mom. Ignoring my frozen state, Isla glared at Leon and said, "To cheat again? That's despicable." Even Leon, faced with his daughter's words, seemed unable to respond. While holding Isla tightly, I confronted Leon with a demand for a divorce. Leon exclaimed,
Please, spare me the divorce. What about Isla's well-being?
His self-centered statement, even at this point, filled me with disgust. Naturally, I intended to take custody of Isla. Looking into Isla's eyes, I asked, "What do you want, Isla?" Isla replied, "I want to go with Mom." Leon was easily discarded by Isla, and he seemed to be shocked by it. After hardly taking care of her all this time, did he actually think he would be chosen? I informed the shocked Leon that I would be seeking compensation from him. Regarding custody, it would be difficult for me to obtain it. However, my in-laws convinced Leon and we reached an agreement that he would provide child support. As a result, I and Isla were able to live together successfully. I was also able to receive compensation from the affair partner, and since I am working myself, I'm not financially struggling. Due to my report of Leon's affair to the HR department, both Leon and his affair partner were transferred to different departments. Furthermore, news of the affair somehow leaked, and the affair partner was seen with disapproval by those around her, losing her place and eventually resigning. Leon, as a man who abandoned his daughter for another woman, has also lost trust and is not doing well on his job. Next month, he is scheduled to be transferred to a small regional branch, as indicated in the notice. I am encouraged by my colleagues and receive support and advice on parenting, and I am doing my best as a mother. Isla, who is already in middle school, helps me by cooking dinner or assisting with laundry when I have to work late. Both my in-laws and my parents have been helping me, and despite the challenges, we are leading a fulfilling life. However, I sometimes worry if Isla feels lonely or if she is truly happy living with just me. But when I see Isla enjoying herself and not showing any signs of missing her father, even after he's gone, I feel that we made the right decision. Since then, Isla has gradually started calling me Mom. Although we are not biologically related, I want to build a genuine parent-child relationship from now on.